Hey guys, Micah from Black Bear Custom Kydex. I have a video for you today on some firefighter gear. A guy named Justin contacted me. Justin is from Big Spring, Texas, and he asked if I could make him a few sets of sheaths for a few different items. So we have, the first item is a Blackhawk dynamic entry full-size Fireman's Axe. The next item is a Halligan Bar. And then the third item is a trio of aluminum wedges. So all three of these tools are used for various applications in firefighting. You know, obviously probably to break down structures, be able to get into or get out of a burning building, what have you. I am not a firefighter, and I am really not well versed in what they do exactly. It's all kind of a mystery to me, and those guys are real brave. Man, talk about a heroic job. Those guys are awesome. So anyway, I'm not going to speculate on what the tools do exactly, because I'll be talking out of my backside, to be honest with you. So what I do know is Kydex, and I've got some interesting sheaths to show you. So we'll start with the easiest one here. We've got the aluminum wedges. Now these guys, he asked me if I could make a sheath that would hold them together, all three of them, and ride on a Build Right panel, which is Molle compatible, and that thing, the Build Right panel, sits in the bed of his pickup truck. So I'm going to say this right here up front at the beginning of the video. You guys who have watched anything else I've done with Molles on it in the last like 18 months, you probably already know what I'm about to say, so I apologize for being redundant. But for those of you who are just tuning in for this video, it's really, really, really important that anytime you order something that is custom built and involves anything Molle compatible, if it's multiple Molle locks, they need to be spaced properly. I just see it all the time, and I don't understand how this is an oversight. I'm not trying to trash anybody's work, and obviously I'm not going to name names, but there are a ton of guys out there who just put Molle locks on wherever they can fit them. That does not a Molle compatible system make. So you need to have them. Molle webbing is essentially rows of nylon webbing that have been vertically stitched at consistent increments to create individual loops, and they are parallel to one another. Stitching is aligned all the way down, so you have however many rows of Molle webbing. I believe it's an 1.5 inch spacing vertically. It's definitely an 1.5 inch horizontally. So you need to have your Molle locks spaced in 1.5 inch increments laterally. So you have 1.5 inches, 3 inches, 4.5, 6 inches, and then this is 7.5. So everything that you're going to see has been measured out and will definitely fit into any standard Molle webbing, and that is just essential for the security of your tools. So, okay, that disclaimer, not disclaimer, but that little soliloquy out of the way, let's get into the actual gear. These guys are really interesting. Alright, so they have this little bungee that came with them. At first, I molded them without the bungee, and I didn't think I was actually going to use them, but then I started looking at pictures to see, you know, how do people actually store these things? What do people do with them? What are these things actually even used for? And almost every picture I saw, they were basically stored like this, you know, usually hanging from something, but with that stopper ball and this nylon bungee, or not nylon, but this elastic bungee hanging down. So I decided I would run the bungee through it after molding these without the bungee, and that bungee just creates a little extra pressure in this wedge so that the things really sit in there solid. I mean, they're in there really good. So the idea is that when you need to pull these things out, you can either grab the ball and the bungee tail like I did and just yank it out, or you can just kind of move the ball and put your finger into the actual hole going through the top of this thing and yank it out. All of the retention on these comes from this front divot here, and then this divot further up the wedge itself. You can see there is a little bit of, oops, what did I do? Oh, I lifted up the wrong part and I let it fall sideways, so they started to squish together, and then it all got haywire from there. Alright, so like I said, there is a little bit of molding in between them to separate them. I put something between them and taped it down so that they would have consistent spacing, but the majority of the retention comes from just these divots in it. So yeah, very simple. He'd asked for 2 different colors for this whole project. So on the axe, we're going to have this subdued American flag, and then on the Halligan bar, we're going to have this American flag 3%er logo there. And so he asked for 3 setups for the bar, 3 setups for the axe, and 2 setups for the wedges. So I just decided, he said I could do either color for the wedges, so I did 1 in each because I thought that was pretty cool. These came out really nice. Obviously different pattern, but other than that, they are identical. And yeah, that's what I got. These are really cool. Check them out. For the Blackhawk dynamic entry, this thing is an absolute beast. Just to give you guys an idea of the size of this axe, because I don't think it comes through that clearly on camera just how big this thing is. But here's something. This is a Swiss axe. It's very similar in size and shape to like a Holzbrook camp hatchet. I mean, we're not even in the same ballpark. This is not even on the same continent. These things are so different in size. This one could eat my little hatchet up for breakfast. So, I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to give you guys a context. It's bigger than my head. I have freakishly large hands for a man my size. I'm only 5'11". I can like very comfortably palm a basketball. So just to give you an idea, I mean, it's definitely bigger than my closed hand, and even sprawled all the way out, it obscures most of my hand. This thing is a beast. So with these 2 patterns that he chose, these are both through Holster Builder, the 3%er and the subdued flag. With both of them, the challenge is that they only come in 8x8 inch squares. So you can't get them bigger than that. You can't have them fused together. I don't really know what the process is over at Holster Builder, but that's what's available to the general purchaser, in which category I reside. So I decided to make these things out of the other thing is they only come in .080 thickness, which, you know, for the most part, I think 080 will do the trick on almost any sheath. But sometimes you just want something bigger, thicker, for that extra rigidity, the extra strength, and, you know, ruggedness of your sheath. With something this is a 6-pound axe head, I definitely wanted something thicker, so I decided I would use black 0.093 inch thick and then layer this pattern over it. So you still get that as the prominent face of your axe, but you have a little bit of security beneath it. On the back side here, you can see that I've actually molded a little outcrop in 2 separate sections, and that's to allow for the hardware that's holding these Molle locks in place. It allows it to clear the axe itself. That way your axe is never going to scrape up against those Chicago screws inside and get scratches down the side from it. It's durable. It survives a fall. I'm just kidding. It does though, but okay, so there's that, and we have on top here an Exotac Nano Striker XL. If you guys don't already know Exotac gear, go check those guys out. They make amazing fire starting gear. Not just ferro rods, they have a ton of other stuff to it, but these are really cool. This is a striker and a ferro rod all in one watertight capsule, so I really like these things. As far as the holder goes, normally I make these loose enough that it requires a little bit of shock cord to retain them, just to be kind of on the safer side. But I took the extra time and got the retention just right so that they are self-retaining. You should never have an issue with it. Unlike ferro rods that are exposed and you wear them down, they obviously become too small for the container at some point, so they definitely require shock cord. This guy is in a fixed size casing that you're never going to start to wear off, so it doesn't really matter. How I would recommend getting it out, I mean, you can grab it by the tail and pull it out, but it's a little bit hard and the tail's hard to hold on to. What I think is the best way is just to kind of push it from the silver cap out the other end, and then this is the fattest part of the Exotac. It's also textured, which makes it really easy to just grab out, and the thinner side should pass through really, really easily. So that's just my personal recommendation on that. The Molle is spaced at 3 inches. And the reason I'll object right now to anybody who's going to tell me I should have spaced this out wider for stability, the reason I put them this close together is simply because I wanted, well, actually there's 2 reasons. Number one, because I wanted them to both be in a spot where the bulk of the weight of the head of this axe would be borne by both clips, not just one, because the stability issue, whatever. It just seemed like a better idea as far as how it actually bears the weight. The other reason is because the farther away from the back of this axe that I put this second Molle lock, the more it's going to have a tendency to tilt up. And I didn't want it to be riding at a tilt. I thought it would be actually better to ride, you know, flat like this. Seems like it would stay a little more stable. So that's just my thought with it. I could be totally wrong, but I do know that this is going to do the trick. It's going to hold nice and firm. And these are large Gen 3 Molle locks that you see on those aluminum wedge holders, as well as all 3 axe setups. So each of these clips can go through 3 rows of Molle webbing. So you'll have 6 points of contact in total. That is more than enough. You should be really stable, good to go. The last feature on it is this little elastic shock cord. All you have to do is kind of stretch it. Make sure you go behind these Molle clips there, and then you just kind of wrap it around this little notch here. That just pinches the Kydex a little bit and gives it just that extra bit of retention to prevent some kind of accidental loss of your axe head. Going in, obviously, you can see it's super easy to sheath this thing. I mean, the weight of it takes care of most of the issue. So you just want to put it in kind of an angle like this, and then you rotate the head on. You can see when it's tucked under this little back corner here, you know it's on all the way. If you're really concerned about the retention on it, you know, you might still have some lingering concern that this shock cord is not enough to retain it. I mean, if you did get into a serious accident, there's certainly the possibility that the axe could pop free. So maybe you want to just take a thread of paracord or something and loop it through an eyelet and then tie it off around the base, you know, the handle of this axe. That would be, or you could even just do it in the same direction as the shock cord is right now. But so if you really want, you can do something like that to give it the extra little bit it needs. All right, now the last item here, we got the Halligan Bar. This thing, guys, if you do not know what a Halligan Bar is already, I am going to tell you right now. Just pause this video, go Google search this thing, and then come back to the video with whatever you have in your head as the size of a Halligan Bar. When I searched it, I thought that a Halligan Bar was like 15, 18 inches long, like a regular crowbar size implement, and maybe it was used to get into vehicles, or who knows. I mean, firefighters got to do a lot of crazy stuff sometimes, right? These guys are brave. They do a dangerous job. Man, I was completely off base with what I was thinking for the size of this thing. This, my friends, is a Halligan Bar. And I'm sure they come in different sizes. I don't know if this is the biggest one or the whatever, but it's definitely hefty. I mean, I would guess, if I had to ballpark it, just, you know, pegging a guess, somewhere between 15 and 20 pounds. This thing is heavy. And on both ends, you have destructive implements. So on this end, which is kind of like the primary end of it, it looks like a claw hammer is what I'm going to call it. I could be totally wrong there. I'm sure I'm wrong on the actual technical name of all parts of this thing, but I'm calling this a claw hammer. And obviously down the shaft on the other side, we've got this guy, which is kind of similar to like the back of like a Pulaski axe. So I'm just calling it the Pulaski tail. And then this is a spike. I don't care what its technical name is. This is a spike. So we have all 3 of those individual protrusions that have to be sheathed. So I was really off base with, like I said, the size, what I thought, and certainly with what would be required to sheathe this thing. Not only because of the size, but because of the space that's available to me. My workshop is my living room, and my desk is up in this corner, and I really can't go any farther out into the center of the living room. So what you see now is the biggest available space I have to work in. This is my press, and there's only about 2.5 feet between the edge of my press and the wall. So it's really, you know, it's cramped sometimes. And when you're working on a big piece like this, sometimes the press is just a no-go. So I had to get really creative with this one, different ways and, you know, things to hold up one end while this end was in the press and blah, blah, blah. And then trying to come up with ways to deal with the fact that this is a curved tool. I mean, the first couple times I tried pressing this, it was a total mess. Like this section pressed with a curve, but then it came off at an angle. I mean, yeah, I just had to figure it out as I went. And it was, even after getting the process down on the first one, making the subsequent ones still took way longer than I expected it to take. There's just a lot going on with this, and there are a lot of different steps that you have to take to ensure that the final product is, actually functional. So I'm going to preface showing you the Halligan Bar stuff with this. If you guys own a Halligan Bar, if somebody out there owns one and is like, oh, hey, I need a sheath for that, I'll still do Halligan Bar sheaths. I'm not telling anybody that I won't do them. I really had fun doing this. I love challenges, and I love doing something that nobody else is doing. As far as I know, this is the only Halligan Bar that's ever been put into Kydex. There's just nothing out there on the web that I could find. So as far as I know, this is the very first time, which is a really cool feeling for me. So yeah, I'm still willing to do them. However, after going through the gauntlet with these 3 setups that I built for, I am now aware of how much time it takes, and I think that the price that I would have to charge is probably more than it's actually worth. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. This is my industry. This is how I make my money. So if anybody out there, and obviously that price point is going to be different, that whether it's worth it or not is different to every individual person. I own knives that when I show my friends, they're like, dude, are you stupid? Like, why would you ever spend more than $25 on a knife? I'm like, well, because I like this $350 knife. So, obviously you guys out there who are watching this are probably knife nuts, most of you. So you probably understand my addiction, but, and I'm sure you've heard the objections to it too. So anyway, as far as the sheath for the Halligan Bar goes, I get it. What's worth it to you might not be worth it to me. But I, being in the industry, feel like I'm pretty open to what the prices are for a given sheath, because the more I charge, the more I make. But what I'm saying is the amount of time that this takes out of my schedule to build one, I just can't do it for a price that is what I would consider to be reasonable for what you get. So this disclaimer kind of comes with that apology up front, but also just that I do have to compensate myself for my time. So if you want one, feel free to contact me, get a quote. I get somewhere in the ballpark of 50 emails every single day now. And most of them don't end up becoming orders, whether it's because of, sticker shock, or just, some people aren't good at correspondence, or whatever it is. Maybe they just don't like the product after they look it up, or don't like how I talk, or who knows. But, so I'm not at all adverse to the idea of inquiries that never get a reply back after I've responded. So whatever. I feel like I'm talking in circles for way too long, and I'm sure you guys are getting antsy to see this sheath. So anyway, feel free to contact me. I'll give you a price. I won't feel bad if you don't contact me back about a project, but just be aware that these are going to be expensive, because they are very specialized projects that take an incredible amount of my time. So, okay. Without further prattling or whining or whatever I am doing right now, I'm going to show you this guy. So he wanted a sheath that could carry on this build right panel, same as the other stuff. It would obviously sheath both ends of this, all 3 protrusions. It would have a sling that he could carry it on his shoulder with, and it would have the ability to detach any given protrusion to use that tool without sacrificing having the other ones protected and sheathed. So, well, he said one end of the tool at a time. So you could unsheath one end, use it, and keep the other end sheathed. Okay, so with that in mind, let's check this thing out. On the beaver tail side of this thing, I have 2 Gen 3 large Molle locks. These can each go through 3 layers of Molle Webbing. They are at an angle to the actual bar. The Halligan Bar is going to be kind of up around this angle. And I'm going to explain that in a second, why I have these on here like this. Then we have the sling attached to this D-ring point. You can see that the back side of this, I used just Storm Gray Kydex, not the 3% or American flag. The reason is because my material cost doubles if I use that on the back of here. And I was already pretty deep in the hole with time, and pretty close to that with materials. I basically did not make... Actually, I lost money on the Halligan bars. I'm not complaining, Justin. I hope you don't think I'm saying anything bad about that end of it. I quoted the price. I am always happy to build things at the price that I quote, because that was my decision. I just didn't know what I was getting into. So anyway, as we got further into it, I realized that I was going to have to use this for the back of it. Plus, I wanted to have this two-tone effect. I think just looks really cool. These colors together is a really, really nice effect, especially when you get this seamless weld, or whatever you want to call it, you know, welded seam all the way around. It just looks awesome. So in any event, that's what we have here. How I would recommend putting it on is just to kind of slip it on part way and then give it a slap home. The 3 different setups that I have for this all have slightly different retention on the claw hammer. I just couldn't get them all to be exactly the same, but universal solution is just to put it on part way, slap it home. Same sort of idea with this Pulaski tail. You want to just put it on part way, slap it on, and then you just kind of stretch the spike out and slip it on. You can see that the spike and the Pulaski thing are held on to each other by elastic shock cord, and that pressure is actually what retains these on the Halligan bar itself. So if you need to use either end of this, you can very easily do that. You can also, if you needed to, you could do something like detach this and then, let me show you actually what let's say you needed to use this end of it. You could take the tools off and then run this over here, and you could clip that HK clip onto the other D-ring, so you have it all contained at one end very easily, very conveniently. Alright, so we got that. Now if I could just figure out how to take the clip off. There we go. Okay. So that's pretty much that. I mean, it's a very self-explanatory tool, or a sheath system, I should say. The only thing I want to say in addition to that is, with this sling, you do really need to be careful. Kydex is rugged stuff. There's a reason why it's so popular for outdoor gear and for police and military. It just beats the pants off leather in terms of durability. However, it does still have its limitations with the retention aspect of it. I've shortened the sling. I brought it in. This is the only one that I've actually shortened up. The other one, actually, maybe, no, I shortened them all. You probably want to shorten it even more. Play around with it at its biggest and its smallest. See what you like. But I thought it would be best to have them shorter because the pressure would be pulling the 2 sides of this together toward the center of the Halligan bar, rather than allowing the slack that could result in having something up here pulling the sheath potentially off of whatever implement that it's around. So you do have to be really careful. This is not intended to be worn for like really intensive usage. I know it's a firefighting tool, which is probably going to see some serious action, but maybe that action doesn't have to be received with the sheath on it. Or, here's my thought. You can throw this on your shoulder and you can walk with it. You can jog with it. If you're going to do anything more than like jogging, if you're going to go sprinting around, or if you're going to be jumping on stuff, whatever, real intense usage, you probably want to brace it with your hand. Just take some of the weight off it. I made sure that I bought slings with bungees on them so that some of that impact would be absorbed by the stretching. It wouldn't be a jarring impact and snap it back and have that potentially, yank one of these sheaths off. Hopefully that would never be an issue with this, but just in case, I wanted to make sure to give this kind of disclaimer that you do need to use a little bit of sensibility when you're carrying this thing around, and be safe with it. It is rugged. It is designed to work, but it's not accident proof. So please, 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 please train with it a little bit. Maybe see where the limitations are on it, and then you'd be better equipped to use it. You can also certainly reinforce it with something, having a piece of paracord or something tied around like the strap here. I don't know. There's a lot of different things you can do to make it more viable, but I didn't want to do any of those things because that might affect how easily accessible your tool is when it comes time to actually use it. So that's something I think that you're going to be the better person to make the decision on, because I am, like I said, I'm really totally in the dark when it comes to firefighter equipment. I'm not trained in this. I'm not well versed in it, and I don't want to make any critical mistakes that might cost you or anybody else time or your life or whatever in the field. Like that's the last thing I want. So anyway, I think you guys get what I'm getting at and smell what I'm stepping in. So Anyway, I'll just end the video here because I don't think I have anything else to say without just totally spewing out my mouth here. This is ridiculous. I'm just talking for talking's sake. This is already a 25-minute video. So, all right, guys, thank you for sticking around. I know this is a long video, but this is some really cool gear. Thought you would appreciate having a close-up look at. So if you like these sheets, if you like this video, hit that like button. If you like my channel, I ask you to subscribe to it. Comment down below. Let me know what you think of all these firefighting tools. And if you guys are already familiar with them, or if you own anything like that. For those of you who are firefighters out in the community or do anything involving firefighting or these particular tools, definitely give me your 2 cents down below. Let me know what you think of having a sheath system versus whatever the traditional way of storing this is. I don't know. I'm totally ignorant on that. So I would really like to know what you guys think. And I'm going to take a funny picture with this, and that'll be the thumbnail. So maybe caption contest down below or something. That would be fun too. So, all right, guys, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I appreciate you tuning in. Stick around for the next one. God bless.